It started in the fall of junior year. We had biology together, and I remember the exact moment I noticed him. He was sitting 2 rows ahead, laughing at something his friend whispered. That laugh, it wasn't loud or obnoxious. It was the kind that made you pause, made you want to know what was so funny. And just like that, I was hooked. At first, it was just a little crush. The kind that makes your heart race when he walks into the room. The kind that makes you check your hair and your phone's front camera before class. But over time, it grew. Every interaction, every glance, every stupid joke he made, everything added up. And before I realized it, I had memorized the sound of his voice, the way he tapped his pen when he was bored, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about music. We became friends, sort of. Not close, not texting on weekends kind of friends, but enough for him to say hi in the hallway, enough for him to ask if I understood the homework, enough for me to hope, to dream, and to stay up late wondering if maybe, just maybe, he liked me too, but I never told him. I came close once. It was senior year, right before winter break. We were walking out of school together, and it was snowing lightly. He was talking about some band he'd just discovered, and I was half listening, half dying inside because I wanted to say it. I wanted to stop, turn to him, and say, I like you. I've liked you for a long time, but I didn't. Instead, I nodded, smiled, and said, sounds cool, and that was that. I had a million reasons not to tell him. What if he didn't feel the same? What if it ruined everything? What if I became just another awkward memory for him to laugh about later? I told myself it wasn't the right time. I told myself he probably liked someone else. I told myself that being close, even just as acquaintances, was better than losing him entirely. I watched him fall for other girls. He dated this girl named Emma for a few months. She was smart, pretty, confident, the exact opposite of how I felt around him. I smiled when he talked about her, even when it hurt. I liked being the one he could talk to, even if I wasn't the one he wanted. I hated myself for not being braver. I hated how I could pour my heart into journal pages and never once say a word out loud. I hated how I would play out conversations in my head, imagining every possible outcome except the one where I actually did it. Graduation came and went. We hugged goodbye. He said, keep in touch, and I nodded like an idiot. We followed each other on Instagram, liked each other's posts occasionally, but that was it. He went off to a college in Oregon. I stayed in state, and even with all the distance, my feelings didn't change. I still think about him when I hear a song we both liked, when I see someone who looks like him from behind, when I catch myself laughing at a joke he would have made. Sometimes I wonder if he ever had even the slightest clue, if he ever noticed how I looked at him, if he ever replayed a moment in his head and thought, did she? Probably not. Maybe that's the worst part, loving someone silently for so long that even the memory of it feels like a ghost. It lingers, but there's nothing solid to hold on to. Just moments, just silence, just what ifs. I don't think I'll ever tell him. It's been 3 years since we met, a year since we graduated, and still, whenever I close my eyes, I see him sitting 2 rows ahead in that biology class, laughing, existing, completely unaware that the girl behind him was falling a little more in love every single day. Sometimes I wonder if love that's never spoken still counts, if it's never confessed, never heard, never acknowledged. Was it ever real? But I felt it, I still feel it. It's not the same kind of feeling anymore. It's softer now, less like fire, more like a fading warmth, but it still lingers in the corners of my mind when the world slows down, like when I'm sitting in a coffee shop alone, or walking past the library where we once studied together. There was this one time, late in senior year, when we sat in the library during finals week. He was stressed about calculus, and I offered to help, though truthfully, I wasn't much better at it. We sat side by side, our arms barely brushing, and he leaned over my notebook to read what I had written. He was so close I could smell the faint scent of his cologne, fresh, simple, a little citrus. I remember wishing I could freeze that moment, not to make a move, not to change anything, just to stay there a little longer, and still, I said nothing. After high school, people told me I'd forget, that once I got to college, everything would change. I'd meet someone new, I'd fall in love for real, and part of me wanted to believe that. But college came, and though I met people, nice people, funny people, no one made me feel the way he did. No one made me nervous and calm at the same time. No one made my heart feel like it was both racing and standing still. I don't think it was just infatuation. It wasn't just about how he looked or how he sounded. It was how he saw the world, how he was kind without trying, how he remembered the little things I said, even if I didn't think he was listening. There was one day, just a random Tuesday, when I was having a bad morning. My cat had knocked over my coffee. I was late to school, and I had bombed a quiz. He saw me in the hallway and said, "You okay?" I forced a smile and shrugged. He reached into his backpack and handed me a pack of sour gummies. "Thought you might need these," he said. I had mentioned once, just once, that they were my favorite, and somehow, he remembered. It was little things like that that made it so hard to let go. Not the grand gestures, not the big romantic moments, just tiny details that made it feel like maybe I mattered, even if only a little. Now, when people ask if I've ever been in love, I usually just laugh and shake my head. I tell them, not really, because how do you explain loving someone you were never even with? How do you explain holding on to something that never truly existed outside your own head? And yet, I know it was real. To me, it was real. Every glance, every skipped heartbeat, every time I thought of texting him but didn't, every night I lay in bed, rehearsing words I would never say. Sometimes I imagine what would have happened if I had told him. Would he have smiled? Would he have laughed awkwardly and let me down gently? Would he have said he felt the same? That he was just waiting for me to say it first? Or would everything have changed? Would our casual conversations have stopped? Would he have avoided me in the hallways? Would I have lost even the little pieces of him I got to hold on to? That's what scared me the most, not the rejection, but the idea of losing him completely, of turning something warm and familiar into something distant and cold. So I kept my silence, and now, I carry the weight of every word I never said, every smile I gave when I wanted to cry, every time I listened to his stories and pretended they didn't break my heart. He still pops up in my social media feeds sometimes, a picture from a concert, a story from a road trip. He looks happy, and I'm happy for him. Truly, but a part of me, the quiet part that still writes about him in my journal, wonders if he ever thinks of me too, if, in some forgotten moment, he ever wondered what it would have been like if I had just said something. There's a strange kind of pain in almost saying it, almost reaching out, almost being brave. It stays with you. You carry it like a scar on your heart, hidden beneath layers, but always there if you press hard enough. I used to think that one day, maybe I'd get over it, that the years would dull the ache, and he'd become just a faint memory from high school. But the truth is, I don't want to forget him, because forgetting him would mean forgetting a part of who I was, and that part, the version of me who loved him silently, purely, completely, that part still matters. Sometimes I'll scroll back through our old group photos. There's one where we were standing next to each other at a school fundraiser. He wasn't even looking at the camera, he was mid-laugh, his eyes crinkled at the edges, and I was looking right at him, not smiling at the camera like everyone else, just looking at him. It's subtle, but it's there, proof of everything I ever felt. And yet he never knew. Not once did I slip, not once did I let it show too much. I was so careful, because I thought protecting myself from rejection was more important than giving the truth a chance to breathe. Looking back, I wonder if I did the right thing. Was silence really the safer choice? Or did I rob myself of something that could have been beautiful? I'll never know. That's the thing about unspoken feelings, they don't come with closure. You're just left with fragments, echoes, dreams that dissolve with daylight. People talk a lot about first loves, how messy and intense and unforgettable they are. Mine wasn't messy, it was quiet. It was a slow burn that never caught fire, but it changed me. He taught me how much a single person could mean, how someone could walk into your life and shift your entire world without ever knowing. He taught me how to feel deeply, how to hope, and unfortunately, how to hurt in silence. There were nights when I would write him letters I'd never send, pages filled with words like if only and I wish and maybe someday. I'd fold them up and tuck them into a box under my bed. That box is still there. I don't open it much anymore, but I can't bring myself to throw it away either. It's the only place where those feelings ever lived outside of me. I think what hurts the most isn't that he didn't love me back, it's that he never had the chance to. I never gave him that chance. Maybe he would have said no. Maybe he would have been kind about it. Or maybe it would have been awkward, but maybe, just maybe, he would have surprised me. I'll never know. That's the weight I carry, the burden of never trying, of watching someone drift away, not because of distance, but because I never reached for them. And now it's too late. We live in different cities now. Different lives. We're both older. He probably has someone who knows how to say the things I never could. Someone who gets to laugh with him, cry with him, share real moments, and I'm happy for him, or at least I'm trying to be. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever feel that way again, if I'll ever love someone with that same intensity, that same quiet desperation, that same ache in my chest when they're near. I hope not, because as beautiful as it was also lonely. Loving someone in silence is like dancing in the dark, beautiful in its own way, but no one sees you, and you're always just a step away from falling. Still, I'm grateful for all of it, for the way he made me feel alive, for the small kindnesses, for the memories, for the love that never needed to be returned to feel real. He'll never know, and maybe that's okay. Maybe some stories are meant to stay unfinished. Some love meant to be quiet, some people meant to pass through. Your life like a song that ends too soon but stays stuck in your head forever. I once read that unspoken love is the most honest kind, because it asks for nothing in return. It simply exists pure, quiet, and true, and maybe that's what my love for him was. It never demanded his attention, it never interrupted his day, it simply watched from a distance, cheering him on, hoping the best for him even when I wasn't part of his world anymore. There were times I almost picked up the phone, drafted a message, typed out, "Hey, can I tell you something I should have said a long time ago?" But my thumb would always hover over the send button, never quite brave enough to press it, because once it's said, it changes everything, and I was never sure if I was ready for everything to change. I think we underestimate the comfort of the familiar, even if it hurts, even if it leaves us longing. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar rejection. It's funny how life keeps moving forward. No matter how stuck your heart feels, friends got engaged, careers started, seasons changed, and yet a part of me stayed behind, frozen in the hallway of our old school, clutching a notebook I never shared my feelings in. Sometimes I imagine a different version of me, one that was bold, one that looked him in the eyes and said, "I like you. I've liked you for a long time." What would he have said? Would he have smiled and told me he felt the same? Would he have gently let me down? Or just stood there, stunned, unsure what to say? That version of me doesn't exist. I was never that brave, but I've grown, I've changed. Maybe now, if someone like him came along, I wouldn't stay silent. Maybe I'd speak up. Maybe I'd take the chance I never took back then. But first loves, they leave marks, even the quiet ones, especially the quiet ones. They become part of the lens through which you see everything else. I still remember the last time we spoke. It wasn't special, just a short, passing conversation at a mutual friend's party. He asked how college was going. I asked about his new internship. We smiled. We said, "Take care." And that was it. I remember walking home that night, feeling hollow, not because of what was said, but because of everything that wasn't. It felt like the final chapter of a book that was never fully written. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Instead, I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking, this is how some stories end. Not with a bang, not with a goodbye, just silence. And maybe that's okay. Maybe not every love story needs a climax. Maybe some are meant to teach us something and then quietly step aside. He taught me patience. He taught me to feel. He taught me what it means to care for someone without conditions. And he taught me that even unrequited love can be beautiful in its own way. I think part of healing is accepting that not everything needs a conclusion. Sometimes closure is just making peace with the fact that you won't get any, and still choosing to move forward anyway. These days, when I pass by couples holding hands, I don't feel jealous. I feel hopeful that one day, I'll find someone who makes me want to be brave, someone I won't love in silence, someone who will look at me and see everything I tried to hide all those years ago. And maybe when that day comes, I'll finally be able to let go, not forget but release the version of myself who waited, wondered, and wished, release the memories that held me gently but tightly, release the idea of what could have been. I still keep that box of letters, but now I don't write new ones. Not because I don't love anymore, but because I've learned to love differently, out loud, with courage, with the kind of honesty I wish I had back then. It's strange how someone can mean the world to you and never know it. Stranger still how time moves forward, but feelings, real ones, tend to linger, not in the loud moments, but in the quiet ones, the early morning silence, the song that randomly plays on shuffle, the scent of autumn leaves. That's when I feel it the most, that ache, that memory of a love I never spoke. I think part of growing up is learning to live with the things you never got to say, not out of regret, but with understanding that sometimes the timing wasn't right, sometimes you weren't ready, sometimes they weren't meant to stay, and sometimes you were meant to love them, but not to keep them. If I could speak to that younger version of myself now, I'd tell her this: you were not weak for staying silent. You were protecting a heart that didn't yet know how to risk. You were learning, feeling, and loving in the only way you knew how, and that matters. That was real. That was enough. I'd also tell her not to be afraid to fall again, not to build walls so high that no one can ever reach her, because love, true love, deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be felt fully, and sometimes it starts with a single brave sentence. Even if your voice shakes, I'm older now, wiser maybe, I've fallen in and out of love since him. Some were soft, some were sharp, some healed me, some broke me, but none of them were him, and maybe that's a good thing, because now I see love not as a fairy tale, but as something real and imperfect, something messy and beautiful and alive. Not a fantasy I carry in silence, but a truth I speak out loud. Every now and then, I'll see someone who reminds me of him, the curve of a smile, the way someone tosses their head back when they laugh, and I'll pause for a moment, heart stuttering like it did back then I'll breathe, and I'll let it pass. Because I've learned that just because something was important doesn't mean it has to last forever. Some people are meant to be chapters, not the whole story, and he was one of my favorite chapters, even though he never knew, even though he never read the pages I wrote for him in my head. He helped me discover my capacity to love, and that love didn't need to be returned to be valid. It just needed to be felt. So here I am now, writing this not for him, but for me, to honor what was, to finally give voice to the silence I carried for 3 years, to let the younger version of me know she was brave, even if she didn't speak. And to remind myself, next time, I will, next time, I'll say it, I'll choose courage over comfort. Truth over safety, because love deserves to be known, even if it ends, even if it breaks, even if it doesn't turn out the way you hope. It's worth saying, it's worth the risk, and next time, I'll take it.